a good thing we have two presidents, because only one of them's here so far. So we're going to call an audible and invite Elaine up to share announcements. Andrew was on his way, but he's running late.
Oh, I'm going to give up the podium because the first president's here. You're good? Okay, welcome, Andrew. Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
So tomorrow morning is Lorelai Magdine's bar mitzvah, so come celebrate with her. We're giving a big thank you and mazel tov to Bruce Folkerth for blessing the Torah to celebrate the second anniversary of his bar mitzvah. Mazel tov. And Shabbat Service is on Friday, May 26th at 9:30 a.m. in the Temple Library. And Mitzvah Day is almost here, June 3rd to 4th. Sign up for a project. Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
I'll add, we added a last-minute Shavuot study session on Thursday night, I think it's the 25th or 26th. What was it? 25th, thank you. So the email came out last week. We just asked that you RSVP because we're going to have some food and some study. And so if you want to join us, check your email. You should have received an email last week about that. We'll start on pages 2 and 3 and then 4 and 5 with our lighting of our Shabbat candles and raising a glass, as we'll say Kiddush, to bless the Shabbat evening.
Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav, v'tzivanu lehadlik ner shel Shabbat. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, borei peri hagafen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav v'ratzavanu, v'shabbat kodesho be'ahava uvratzon hinchilanu, zikaron l'maaseh bereshit. Ki hu yom tehila l'mikraye kodesh, zecher letziat Mitzrayim. Ki vanu v'charta v'otanu kidashta mikohanim, v'shabbat kodecha be'ahava uvratzon hinchaltanu. Baruch atah Adonai mekadesh hashabbat. Amen.
Before we sing our first song, we didn't take a moment to welcome everybody. So let's turn to your neighbor, turn to those around you. I wish them Shabbat Shalom. Make sure everybody's welcome in our sanctuary. It's a moment to check in on everybody, people we haven't seen in a while or people we haven't seen since last Shabbat. Page 10, we'll begin Hinei Ma Tov, how good it is for us to be together. Page 10 in our prayer books.
Hinei ma tov manayim, sheverachim gam yachad. Hinei ma tov manayim, sheverachim gam yachad. Hinei ma tov manayim, sheverachim gam yachad. Hinei ma tov manayim. שבת אחים גם יחד. הנה מה טוב ומה נעים, שבת אחים גם יחד. הנה מה טוב ומה נעים, שבת אחים גם יחד. הנה מה טוב ומה נעים, שבת אחים גם יחד. שבת אחים גם יחד. שבת אחים גם יחד.
Part of what we'll be reading in Torah tonight and also Lorelei tomorrow are the passages about Shemitah and Yovel, these years, a whole year of taking a break, a year-long sabbatical that the Israelites experienced. And it recalls the idea of retreat, as we think of it in the modern sense, of somehow taking a serious, making a serious change in our life so that this moment feels drastically different than the one before, and that we stop everything we're doing so that we can see the world in a different way. On page 7, there's this reading that hints at that. It asks us to make this that moment, even if it's just in the slightest way. So before we share the words of Lechad Odi, our prayer of transition to welcome Shabbat into this room, I want to share these words. Help us to withdraw for a while from the flight of time. Contain the retreat of the hours and days from the grasp of our frantic lives. Let us learn to pause, if only for this day. Let us learn to find peace on this day. Let us enter into a quiet world on this day, so that on this day a sense of Shabbat can abide. Page 20, the words of Lechad Odi. We welcome Shabbat, this day of retreat.
שבת נקבלה, לך דודי, לך דודי לקראת כלה, בני שבת נקבלה, לך דודי לקראת כלה, בני שבת נקבלה, שמור וזכור בדיבור אחד, השמיענו אל המיוחד, אדוני אחד, שמו אחד, ושמו תתברך לתחילה. לך דודי, לך דודי לקראת כלה, בני שבת נקבלה, לך דודי לקראת כלה, בני שבת נקבלה. לקראת שבת לכו ונלכה, כי היא מקור הברכה, מראש מקדם לסוכה, סוף מעשה במשחבת תפילה. לך דודי, לך דודי לקראת כלה, בני שבת נקבלה, לך דודי לקראת כלה, בני שבת נקבלה. התעוררי, כי באור קומי אורי, שתדברי, כבוד אדוני עלייך תגלה. לך דודי, לך דודי לקראת כלה, בני שבת נקבלה, לך דודי לקראת כלה, בני שבת נקבלה.
Please rise as you are able in body or spirit and face the entrance to the sanctuary or to your home. בואי ושלום עטרת בעלה, גם בשמחה וסוחודה, תוך אמונה page for the Chatzi Kaddish. Yikada vikada shamei rabba be'alma divrach yirtei v'yamlich malchutei v'chayechon uv'yomechon uv'chayedecho beit Yisrael va'agala uv'izman kariv v'imeru amen yehi shmei rabba mevarach Le'olam u'el maya yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpar v'yidroma v'yitnaseh v'yitadar v'yitale v'yitalal shemei d'kodesh barichu le'la min kol b'chata v'shirata tushbechata v'nechemata da'amiran be'oma V'imeru amen.
Page 28. Page 31. Praise to you, Adonai, our God, from whom the evening flows. Your wisdom sets the way on which time and season glide. Your breath guides the sail of the stars. Creator of the tide of time and light, you guide the current of day into night. As heaven spans to infinity, you set its course for eternity. Praise to you, Adonai, our God, from whom the evening flows. As you taught Torah to those whose names I bear, teach me Torah too. Its mystery beckons, yet I struggle with its truth. You meant Torah for me, did you mean the struggle for me too? Don't let me struggle alone. Help me to understand, to be wise, to listen, to know. Lead me into the mystery. Pages 34 and 35.
Shema Yisrael,
Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad,
Baruch Shem, Kevod Malchuto, Le'olam Vayin.
Please be seated as we invite Lorelei, our bat mitzvah this weekend, to come lead us in V'ahavta, found on page 36.
ואהבת את אדוני אלוהיך בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודיך והיו הדברים האלה אשר אנוכי מצווך היום על לבביך ושיננתם לבניך ודיברת בם בשבתך בביתך, ובלכתך בדרך, ושוכבך ובקומך, וקשרתם לאות על ידיך, והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך, וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובישעריך, למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותיי, והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים, להיות לכם לאלוהים. אני אדוני אלוהיכם.
Please join me responsively, page 39. In a world torn by violence and pain, a world far from wholeness and peace, give us the courage to say, Adonai, there is one God in heaven and earth. From bondage in Egypt we were delivered. At Sinai we bound ourselves to your way. Though our failings are many and our faults are great, it has been our glory to bear witness to our God, keeping alive in dark ages your vision of a world redeemed. Page 40. Let there be love and understanding among us, God. Let peace and friendship be our shelter from life's storms. Adonai, help us to walk with good companions, to live with hope in our hearts and eternity in our thoughts, that we may lie down at night and be at peace, so that we can rise up on the next day waiting to do your will. Hashkivenu, page 42.
Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu l'shalom, l'shalom. Ve'hamidenu shomreinu l'chaim. Ufros aleinu sukat shlomecha, ufros aleinu sukat shlomecha. Amen. Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu L'shalom, L'shalom. Ve'hamidenu Shomrenu L'chaim. Ufros aleinu Sukat Shlomecha, Ufros aleinu Sukat Shlomecha.
Prayer invites God's presence to suffuse our spirits, God's will to prevail in our lives, and while it may not bring water to parched fields or mend a broken bridge or rebuild a ruined city, we believe that prayer can water our arid soul. It can mend our broken hearts. It can rebuild our weakened wills. And so we turn inward to our most personal prayers now, the words of our Amidah, beginning on page 46 as we rise. First with the words that we have the ability to make that turn and to use these words, first about our ancestors, then words that we write ourselves as we'll close in silence.
Adonai sifatai tiftach ufi yagi tehilatecha. Adonai, open up my lips that my mouth may declare your praise. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu v'Elohei avotenu v'imotenu. Elohei Abraham, Elohei Yitzchak, v'Elohei Yaakov. Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, v'Elohei Leah. Ha'el Hagadol Hagibor Hanora, El Elyon, Gomel Chasadim Tovim, v'Konei Hakol. V'zocher chastei avot v'imahot, u'mevi geula livnei v'neihem, l'ma'an shemo be'ahava. Melech ozer u'moshia u'magen, Baruch atah Adonai, Magen Avraham v'Ezrat Sarah. Atah gibor le'olam Adonai, mechaye hakol atah rav lehoshia, morid hatah. Mechokel chayim bechesed, mechaye hakol berachamim rabim, somech noflim berofech olim, umatir asurim, umekayem emunato, lishenei afar, michamocha ba'al gevurot. Umido melech, melech meimit umechayeh, umatzmiach Yeshua, v'ne'eman atah lehachayot hakol, Baruch atah Adonai, mechayeh hakol.
Atah kadosh v'shimcha kadosh u'kdoshim b'chol yom yihalelucha sela baruch atah Adonai ha'el hakadosh. Please be seated. Our hearts and eyes and ears and minds have turned so often these last months to Israel, with both like a tennis match almost. On one day it's internal strife and struggle for democracy. On the next day it's the 75th birthday of the state. On one day it's fighting and rockets from outside. On the next day it's Yom HaZikaron, a day to remember all that have been killed in fighting for the state. This week, while much of that still goes on, as of a few minutes before services at least, close to 1,000 rockets had been tossed over the border. Our Israeli brothers and sisters are spending Shabbat in bomb shelters and listening to sirens. And so we can't ignore that fact in this moment. And so in the midst of our Amidah, I offer this prayer for peace to find its way to the state of Israel. Divine guardian, rock and redeemer of Israel, bless the state of Israel. It is the beginning of our redemption. Shield it beneath the wings of your steadfast love. Spread over it your shelter of peace. Be near to all the people in that land and in our world. Spread your spirit over all the inhabitants of Israel, those within the green line and beyond it. Uproot hatred and jealousy and evil, the source of this strife, and plant in the hearts of those we know and those we don't a sense of love and brotherhood, of peace and friendship, so that we can fulfill the vision of your prophet that nation will not lift up sword against nation, and they shall learn war no more. Amen. Page 60, the words of Shalom Rav.
Shalom Rav Yisrael Amcha Nasim Leolam. Shalom Rav Yisrael Amcha Nasim Leolam. Ki atahu melech hador lechol hashalom. Ki atahu melech hador lechol hashalom. Shalom Rav Yisrael Amcha Nasim Leolam. Shalom Rav Yisrael Amcha Nasim Leolam. V'tov beinecha levarech et amcha Yisrael b'chol עת ובכל שעה בשלומך. Shalom Rav Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Shalom Rav Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Tasim Leolam. Tasim Leolam.
Take a moment for our own personal prayers.
עושה שלום במרומיו, הוא יעשה שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל ועל כל יושבי תבל, ואמרו Shalom b'rama, hu yaseh shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael ve'al kol
Shabbat Shalom. In his book called Belonging, author Jeffrey Cohen tells a story about a girl named Paige. Paige was one of a handful of Jewish students in her 9th grade class. And she was especially excited because she'd just been admitted to a competitive magnet school in her district. And so going to a new school, she was of course nervous, but prepared, proud of her achievements to get in, until 2 of her male classmates carried out an anti-Semitic stunt. They had put the words, "I hate Jews," on the beach, taken a picture and texted it to a group of students, of which she was included. She wasn't the only Jewish student at the school, but she certainly saw it. And she realized as she talked with others that there had been other acts of anti-Semitism at the school. There had been swastikas written on notebooks, and at one point a group of kids chose to read Hitler's Mein Kampf in the cafeteria. And so, of course, telling her parents and reporting it, the principal disciplined the boys. But surprising, or maybe not surprising, Paige was also punished. Not by the principal, but by her peers. She was called a snitch and quickly became isolated because, of course, it's not cool to be the one who calls out people saying things that aren't appropriate to say. And, of course, this made her parents even more upset. So disappointed in the school's response, they decided to sue the school, which eventually led to the state attorney general's office opening up an investigation, which eventually led to newspapers covering the story, which eventually led to the 2 boys who posted the picture having their college offers rescinded. Paige, unable to reclaim any sense of a normal experience, transferred to a different school. Cohen's writing and sharing this story begs the question, did anybody win in that scenario? In 1997, 2 cultural anthropologists, Richard Schweider and Lene Jensen, developed what they called the 3 ethics approach to problems. As you might guess, it divides ethical decisions into not 1 or 2, but 3 approaches. The first is the ethics of autonomy. When we focus on the ethic of autonomy, we focus on the needs of the individual, making sure that there's equity among people, that what I experience is what you experience, that I'm not treated differently than you are, and that you're not treated any differently than me. It's an ethic that's deep in sympathy and even empathy, that we look at each individual's experience and we feel for them. According to their study, they also studied who tends to follow these particular lenses. This lens, in their study that studied Americans and people living in India, found that those who are liberally minded people tend to be the ones most often drawn to an ethic of autonomy. This was Paige's parents. She was being treated unfairly. They were concerned for the well-being of an individual, particularly one so close to them. Another lens is the ethic of divinity. It's not so much about religion, but religion is an example of how you might fall into this category. This is a concern for moral purity, particularly for the individual to abide by divine or natural law. According to this study, this is the lens that, generally speaking, conservatively minded people prefer. This is how the principal reacted, showing concern for the rules of the institution, punishing the boys by giving them a natural consequence for their actions. We've created standards, you broke the standards, and therefore there's a consequence for what you did. The system worked. Perhaps the principal felt that he applied the rules as they were set, and therefore there was nothing else he could do. These are the same type of, it's the same ethic that's used when we say we have to do something because that's what God said, some might say, but we might even say because it's the right thing to do. You take care of the earth because it's the right thing to do. Some would say because God said take care of the earth. Some would say it's the right thing to do. It's all the same idea. There are some rules that we just have to follow if we want society to work. But for Paige's parents, of course, the principle following the rules wasn't enough. So now we get to the third ethic, the ethic of community. It's concerned with the welfare of the group, particularly how individuals are responsible to each other and the greater needs of the community. And so here I want to make a leap. You can tell me it's a leap too far, but it's a leap nonetheless, to our Torah portion, which Lorelei knows all about. She could come up and say this part, but she's going to do that tomorrow. Our Torah portion is about Shemitah and Yovel, or sometimes called Jubilee. It's the idea that every 7 years you are supposed to stop working your land, and you are to release any debts that you have. And after the 49th year and the 50th year, the Jubilee year they called it, you would, because it was the multiple of 7, it would also be a release of land and of debts, and you would also, anybody who was a slave would also be given the opportunity to go free, and any property that you had purchased would go back to the original owner. Essentially, in my mind, we become this hyper-socialist state, right? That everything all of a sudden loses its title. And the board is cleared. But the question, of course, is why? A better question, or maybe a different topic is, did it work? And the answer is no, it never worked. They could never figure out exactly how to make this work because the economy would just collapse. Nonetheless, there was this idea that this is how the world should work. Every 7th year should be a totally different year. You should stop what you're doing. Just let the land grow as it is. Just let the debts be forgiven. Let everybody get back to a starting place. So, the question of why. The Torah says this is because we have to respect God's creations, both human beings and the earth. We have to make sure that what God created gets to thrive. If you read the verses in the Torah, that's what it tells us is the reasoning. This is the ethic of divinity. God said that this is important, therefore we should do it. There's a higher power. We shouldn't question it. It's not up to us to decide. The ethic of divinity, by the way, is one that's called one of the ethics that has the most humility in it. In other words, I'm not in charge. This isn't my land. I'm just renting it from a higher power. I should take care of it. The rabbis who write later, in their good liberal voices, promote the ethic of autonomy. They say, no, this is about the poor person. This is about the person who's living in society and can't quite get up to par. So society has to adjust to save the individual so that everybody gets to be on par again. And then there was Rav Kook, the first chief rabbi of Israel. He said differently. The purpose of the Jubilee was not economic at all. It was spiritual. It came to restore the sense of unity that once prevailed in Israel and to restore self-respect to the person who had sunk into poverty and a sense of failure. The thing about the ethic of community that they found in their study, both liberals and conservatives like it a lot. Everyone agrees on the ethic of community. Rav Kook says, our story this week, the reason we stop the world is because we have to remember, in the broadest sense, we are all a part of the same people. This is all our space. It's also about helping the poor, and it's also about preserving the land. It's about all of it in one. The purpose of the Jubilee is to unify the group and restore self-respect at one time. So what would it have looked like if that had been the focus of Paige's principal or of her parents? What would it look like if the school took a break from its regular routine and focused on the value of being a single community, or refocusing the idea of belonging to the broadest sense of the term? What if it wasn't an us versus them mentality, the boys versus Paige, or Paige's parents versus the school, but rather a we have to fix this mentality? What would need to stop and pause in order for that fixing to take priority? One more story about teenagers. Some of you may have seen, if you follow my wife on Facebook, which I highly recommend, that she bragged about our daughter this week. So I don't brag about our children on Facebook, I do it from the Bema. So our daughter, on Tuesday, I think it was, the school told us that they'd be dropping off a sign to put in the yard because our daughter had applied for this program called the Web Leader Program, and she had been chosen to be a web leader. I've seen these signs around town. I don't know if you've seen them too. But I've seen other kids in the neighborhood, they get the sign in the yard that says, my child is a web leader. It's sort of like the bumper sticker that goes on the back of the car. And so I did what I was told. I put a sign in the yard before Hannah got off the bus. She got off the bus, and I was told I had to be ready to take a picture so that I can send it to the teacher so the teacher can put it on the page for the school. And Hannah was excited because she was one of the people who got chosen. And all I really knew about it was this means that next year when she's in 8th grade, the oldest of the middle school kids, that she will be a mentor for the youngest of the kids, and that possibly that means she'll get to mentor her younger brother Noah because he'll be going into his first year of middle school. And to be honest, as I saw these signs everywhere, I thought web leader meant one of two things. Either it was some sort of a reference to a spider web in the way that the kids are connected, or it meant that they were going to do some intense online, like, connecting with other people. So I asked Hannah, well, what does it stand for? Anybody know? Where Everyone Belongs. It's a national program. It's led by the Boomerang Project. It's in middle schools all over the country. And it asks the oldest kids to train over the summer to be there for the youngest kids when they start school the way Paige started school. And because it's run by a smart national organization, and that organization has somebody in their marketing department, they crunch numbers. There are schools all over the country running this program. Some of the schools report a 93% decrease in suspensions once they started. A 54% reduction in students with D's or F's. That was a school in Ohio. A school that had 12 reported bullying incidents one year had 2 consecutive years of 0 incidents reported after they started. And a school reported 46% reduction in absences. So some of us are drawn to believe that good in the world comes from a set of rules, what some would call ethics, that if we follow the rules, things will go well. Some of us tend to see good in the world by looking at an individual and saying, well, look what happened to that person. We can't let that happen again. So we have to right that problem. But according to their study, the one area we all agree on is the ethic of the community. The ethic that asks us to look at the well-being of the entirety of the group in the broadest sense. In writing this sermon, there were 22, 23, 45, I don't know, other sermons that could have come off of it, because I can think of how this applies to so many of the scenarios that we're working on today. Right now in the Ohio State House, they're debating this bill to keep DEI on college campuses, the diversity, equity, inclusion, or to get rid of them. We're trying to figure out whether abortion rights are about the individual, or whether they're what God said should happen, or whether they're about the community. The way we talk about issues so often is dependent on what type of ethical glasses we put on, and yet it seems, if their study is correct, there is a set of lenses that we all wear, and that perhaps we can put on and figure out how to solve some of these problems together. We don't need to live in an us versus them world, but perhaps at times we need a break from all of our work and all of our busyness and all of our ways of doing things that we think are the right way, We need a Shabbat to force us to look beyond the rules and beyond the individual. A Shabbat to look at the community, to see if we can figure out precisely where we all belong. Shabbat Shalom. We'll turn now to those verses in our Torah as we share these words at the end of Leviticus, words that talk about that Jubilee year. We invite you to rise as we take the Torah from the Ark, and then we'll call Bruce up in a few moments as an honor. I don't know if he knew it was an honor, but we made it in honor of the second anniversary of his bar mitzvah, that he'll offer the blessing.
Ki mitzion tetzei Torah, ki mitzion tetzei Torah, udavar Adonai mirushalayim, Baruch shenatan Torah Torah, Baruch shenatan Torah Torah. Le'amo Yisrael b'kedushato. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad, Echad Eloheinu, Gadol Adonenu, Kadosh Shemo, Gadalu Adonai Iti, Uneramema Shemo Yaktav, Lecha Adonai Hagedula v'hagevura v'hatiferet v'hanetzach v'ha'achor, ki chol b'shamayim u'va'aretz, ki chol b'shamayim u'va'aretz. Lecha Adonai hamamlacha v'hamitnaseh lechol erosh. Al shlosha devarim, al shlosha devarim, al shlosha devarim, haolam, haolam omi. Shlosha devarim, al shlosha devarim, al shlosha devarim, haolam, haolam omi. HaTorah ve'avodah ve'agimilut chasadim, HaTorah ve'avodah ve'agimilut chasadim.
Please be seated. Cantor Kathy will be reading Leviticus chapter 25, verse 10, starting with verse 10.
Barku et Adonai Hamvarak.
Baruch Adonai hambarak le'olam va'ed.
Baruch Adonai Hamvarak le'olam va'ed. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech ha'olam asher bakar banu makol ha'amim v'natan lano et Torato. Baruch atah Adonai notein ha'Torah.
Are you kidding me? Amen. V'kidashtem et shanat ha'hamishim shana ukratem daror va'aretz l'chol yoshveha yovel hi tiyeh lachem v'shavtem ish al achazuto v'ish el mishpachto hashavu yovel hi shanat hachamishim shanat tiyeh lachem lo tizra'u v'lo tikseru et tzeficheha v'lo tifseru et nazirecha ki yochel hi kodesh tiyeh lachem min hasadeh תאכלו את תבואתה.
Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher natan lanu Torat emet, v'kaye olam nata otenu, Baruch atah Adonai, noten ha-Torah.
Amen.
Translation of what the cantor chanted. You shall hallow the 50th year. You shall proclaim release throughout the land for all its inhabitants. It shall be a jubilee for you. Each of you shall return to his holding, and each of you shall return to his family. That 50th year shall be a jubilee for you. You shall not sow, neither shall you reap the aftergrowth or harvest the untrimmed vines. For it is a jubilee year. It shall be holy to you. You may only eat the growth direct from the field. With the story before us, we offer our words of Mishaberach to all of those who are in need of healing as we take the strength of our story and share it with them. Page 253.
The ones before us, help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say, Amen.
If there are names you'd like to share of those who are in need of healing, please share them.
Kathy Myers and Paula Levine.
Dory Hoffman.
Mishaberach imotenu mikor habracha ve'avotenu, as those in need of healing with refuah shlema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say, Amen. And let us say, Amen.
Please rise as we lift the Torah and return it to the ark.
V'zot haTorah asher sa Moshe lifnei bnei Yisrael al pi Adonai b'yad Moshe. Yadadadadai, 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 yadadadadai. Page 256. Etz haim hi lemachzikim ba v'tomecheh me'ushar dera'eha darchei noam v'chol netivotecha shalom hashivenu Adonai Elecha v'nashuva Chadish, Chadish Yameinu, Chadish Yameinu Kekedem. Page 282, Aleinu. Aleinu l'shabeach ladon hakol, latekedu la leotzer reshit, shelo asanu kegoi haratzot, velo samanu kamishpechot adama, shelo samprakenu kahem, v'gor aleinu kechol hamonam, v'anachnu korim, umishtachavim umodim lifnei melech, mokei hamlachim hakadosh, Baruch hu v'nemar v'haya Adonai l'melech al kol haaretz bayom hahu yiyeh Adonai echad u'shemo echad.
Please be seated. Yesh kochavim she'oram magia arza, rak ka'asher hem atzmam avdu ve'inam. There are stars up above, Hannah Senesh wrote, that are so far away we only see their light, long, long after the star itself is gone. So it is with the people that we loved. Their memories keep shining ever brightly, though their time with us is done. But the stars that light up the darkest night, these are the lights that guide us. So as we live our days, these are the ways that we remember. This week we remember those in our community have lost in this last month. Laurel Gotthelf, Dr. Zalman Ronan, Margaret Ellen Whitmer, and Sandy Levine. We add to their names Lawrence Adams, Rebecca Baer, Gerson Bernstein, Walter M. Cohen, Lena Felstein, Irving Fortnoff, Alfred P. Friedman, Charlotte Friedman, Joseph David Goldman, Yetta Goodman, Ira Jacobs, Dr. Jacob C. Kaplan, Sherman Klein, Sylvia Cook, David Leopold, Joseph Leopold, Margaret M. Lippman, Jack Lober, Denise Sabet Master, Scott M. McCarthy, Anna Meyer, Sis Perelman, Joseph Perelman, Harry L. Rabb, Ronald Rosen, Fanny Rosenblatt, Rose Schultz, Joseph Sischerman, Mildred Silverman, Marcia Scorman, and Edith Whitelaw. If there are names that I mispronounced or names you'd like to share, please share them now. Page 294, we remember our loved ones, the words of Mourner's Kaddish. Yitkadal v'yitkadash shemei rabbah, be'alma divrach hirutei v'yamlich malchutei, b'chayechon uvyomechon uv'chayei dechol beit Yisrael, b'agala uv'izman kariv v'imru, amen. Yehei shmei rabbah mevarach le'olam almei almaya, yitbarak v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh, V'yitadar, v'yitaleh, v'yitalel, shemei dekudusha, barichu. Le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata, tushbechata v'nechamata, da'amiran be'alma v'imru, amen. Yehei shlama rabba min shemaya, v'chayim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael, v'imru, amen. Osei shalom b'mromav, hu ya'aseh shalom, aleinu v'al kol Yisrael, v'imru, amen. Having connected with those that we've loved and lost, we connect with each other as we bless each other with the words of the priests. May God bless you and keep you. May God's presence be with you and be gracious unto you. you feel God's presence within you always, and may you find peace.
Amen.
Please be seated for a moment. We're going to share a couple Shekianu moments for those who have good news to share from this past week, and then we'll close our service. So we'll start with Lorelei. You don't even get to have the chance to raise your hand.
Yay.
A birthday and a bat mitzvah in one weekend. Good timing. All right, others? Yeah, Scott? Oh, we sold out Temple at the Troubadour. So for all those who are going to be joining us, it'll be a great time. And for those who can't, next time. Other good news? Yeah, Bruce? Seniors are finished at Highland High School. And college students, for the college students, I know college students were out. A lot of them were out this week too.
My son came to visit me. I think that was a wonderful thing.
That is a wonderful thing. Your son came to visit you. Good. Well, I'll tell you, I don't know if he can hear us. Oh, yeah, go ahead.
I came to visit my son.
Oh, you came to visit your son. Look at that. Well, nice planning. So when you see him on your way out, Lamar, tomorrow is his 50th wedding anniversary. And then I think on Monday he's leaving for a trip with his wife. So tell Lamar congratulations on your way out. And we'll invite Lorelei, if you want to come up with your mom and lead us in Motzi. We'll close with words of Motzi. First we'll say Shekianu, then Motzi, and then close with Od Yavo.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam she'ehiyanu v'kimanu v'higianu lezman hazeh. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam hamotzi lechem min haaretz. Amen.
Shabbat shalom, everyone.
And thank you to Jeremy for joining me on the Bima today
While all of his kids are in town.
while
Yeah,
all of
usually-
his kids are in town. Join us in Od Yavo Shalom Aleinu. Od Yavo Shalom Aleinu. Od Yavo Shalom Aleinu. Od Yavo Shalom Aleinu. Ve'al kulam. Od Yavo Shalom Aleinu. Od Yavo Shalom Aleinu. Od Yavo Shalom Aleinu. Ve'al kulam. Salam Aleinu ve'al kol ha'olam. Salam, salam, salam Aleinu ve'al kol ha'olam. Salam, salam. Od Yavo Shalom Aleinu. Od Yavo Shalom Aleinu. Od Yavo Shalom Aleinu ve'al kulam. Od Yavo Shalom Aleinu. Od Yavo Shalom Aleinu. Od Yavo Shalom Aleinu ve'al kulam. Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat shalom, everybody.